Welcome to another Freedom Friday. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your freaking morning would feel without. Why? Because when you feel good, you think good, and when you think good, you do good. Good morning and welcome to another Freedom Fridays on your only no-nonsense podcast, your best feeling network. Today on Freedom Friday, we talk about attachments. Not the normal kind of attachments, not like onto the plane, but stuff that makes you feel valuable. We'll be right back. Good morning! Waking the worlds up. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and then physically again. Why? To feel better, objective. And how's that even possible? With a little bit of help of your own body from the inside out. We do a little bit of magic. We do a little bit of body magic tricks here on Padawan. Make the body feel so good from the inside out. Make your body feel so good from the inside out just by using that superpower of awareness of yours, that self-awareness of yours. Talk about some real things today to build ourselves some real confidence to be life-loving always and never death-fearing on Padawan. My name is Herbie and we'll be right back. Host, Herbie Like. Good morning and welcome to another fantastic Freedom Friday. Another good morning to you. It is 5:42 a.m. Wherever you are, whenever you are, wherever you are, wherever thou art and whenever thou art. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for coming through. Every morning, where we stretch our self-awareness like a muscle. What does that mean? As in, stretch our self-awareness physically, mentally, spiritually. Like, if you would, please pretend with me that there's a candle in front of your lips, like 1 to 2 inches in front of your lips, like a lit candle that you're just trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you pretend that that candle is something that you're trying to not put out. Not thinking about breathing in or out, just pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there. To leave your swallowing muscles alone wherever you are. Wherever you are. Internationally, whether you're waiting for school to start, whether you're getting ready for work in the morning, whether you're waiting at the bus stop. Have you been awake for a while already? Or are you just waking up? Whatever you are doing, how does it feel to take a look around? Do you feel like your body permits you the energy to look around? Are you looking around? Are you looking at the ground? Are you looking at the table? Do you feel like it's messy? Do you feel like it's clean? And how does that make your body feel to look at the room versus looking at yourself? Do you feel any changes to your breathing? Why would we want to stretch our self-awareness? Well, because our body wants to breathe and feel so good. And the way it needs to do that is feel its entire body so it knows what to move, what to fill with energy once it gets that breath, and how to move its entire body in order to get the most out of the breath. As the whole body is needed for the proper breath. Why? Because if something's not included in the breath, well, it's still part of your body, so it must needs relaxed so that other things can pull what they properly need to pull to get that proper breath. You must integrate the entire body to get the best kind of breath you can possibly want. And why would you want the best kind of breath you would possibly want on Palgo On? Well, because you die every 5 minutes, don't you know? But that timer is reset with every breath you take. I say again, you die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath you take. One more time, as we are thinking about our lives, our bodies, our experience from the inside out. Isn't it so true that you die every 5 minutes, but your timer is reset every breath you take? So isn't every breath you take life or death? And so doesn't it mean that every breath you take matters that much? So knowing how to breathe properly. Yes, we should all breathe properly. Breathe from your diaphragm. Breathe from that. Breathe blah 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 blah. But doesn't everybody have a different idea of where that diaphragm is? And isn't our brain so strong that no matter where you think it is, it'll actually try to do that, even if you're wrong? Even if you try to move your diaphragm from, say, down here, but even though your diaphragm's all the way up the heck here, if you believe your diaphragm to be down here, your body will do all sorts of things, all sorts of compensatory muscle movements to make sure that that area down there gets treated like a quote-unquote diaphragm, the way that you think to be moving a diaphragm up and down. Now, it's not going to move the diaphragm there, but it will attempt to carry out those instructions faithfully. And so imagine trying to turn the doorknob of a door when your hand is not anywhere near the doorknob. Yeah, you can twist the door. You can twist your hand as if there was a doorknob there. But you're not actually affecting the door, right? However, when you move your hand, that turning hand of yours, you move it down towards that knob. Now your motion of turning your hand actually does something to the door, which in effect opens the door for you to walk in through, right? Isn't that true? And in the same way, you can be twisting your key to the ignition to a car. But if your key is not actually placed into the ignition, then what you're doing is just twisting a key in midair. You might be twisting the key onto the steering wheel. You might be twisting the key onto your air conditioning. Who knows, right? You could still be making that twisting motion and being to the world like, look at me, I'm making the twisting motion. How come the car's not working? Yeah, you must move that twisting motion to the proper area, right? Same thing with your body. It is important for us to be self-aware and to wake our self-awareness every day properly, like a muscle. The same way that you would practice a push-up, the same way you would practice a sit-up, so that you have the proper form, so that the proper muscles are being used. We must also practice the same thing for our breathing. Why? Because it's a complex mechanism. It's a very complex mechanism. One that we confused for years and years and years before you come here and met up here with us on Palgo On. What are some issues with our self-awareness that might arise from being raised in our societies right now where we don't focus on knowing the inside self and moving our hand to the proper area before we try to turn the ignition on, or moving our hands to the proper area before we try to open that door with our hand? Similarly, we need to use our body in a proper way in order for our bodies to feel like we are sitting. For a door to feel like it is being opened, you must be turning that knob, right? At the proper area. In order for your body to understand that it is sitting and for it to place all the weight on the proper weight-bearing portions of its skeleton, one must know that we do not sit on our legs. The same way you do not open the door by not twisting the doorknob, you do not sit down by placing your legs onto the sitting surface, but rather your legs are free to float. And your weight is delivered down the front of the spine, the weight-bearing portion of the spine. If you say it with me, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, right? And so as the weight is borne down the front of the spine and then divided into these rainbow arches, you can see that they do not go into the legs, but rather your legs are floating structures. Basically, they do not sit on the surface, but kind of just free float. They're attached to the pelvis, which is the rainbow arches, which is where your weight ends up going. As as it's delivered, and it might surprise you that it splits, that your weight wants to split here, boom, before it gets to your tailbone, and your weight does not want to go into your tailbone. That might surprise you, but should you move your attention to the proper areas, you might be moving your hand to the knob, you might be moving your key into the ignition, you might be moving your proper channels of your body so that your body actually feels as though it's delivering weight into the areas it wants to the same way a door wants to open, your body wants to get a good breath, and in order for that to happen, the weight must be divided down into these rainbow arches first before going to these sit bones. And your body must understand your legs to be separate parts. In your internal representation of your body, right? Your own internal representation of your body, how you think of yourself in your own body. Your legs must needs not be part of the sitting idea. Like kind of like holding a door closed must not be part of the idea of opening the door, right? It's like that's the opposite. So your legs being the things that you sit on when you sit on something is the opposite of the truth. And so when we dissect that from our idea of reality in our head, when we look at that idea of sitting on our legs, although we might not have thought it to be true, giving ourselves permission to completely abolish it from our ideas of sitting at all, because our brains are so smart, allows our brain the freedom finally to do what it needs to do, which is align closer to the design of its own body to feel so great, to do what the body's supposed to do. Maybe not any one particular thing, but handle every new moment perfectly, which is with a perfect breath. How do we do all of that? With self-awareness, by knowing ourselves. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Why is it all it takes is a little bit of self-awareness? As that is your superpower. Why is it superpower? Why is that your superpower? And why does it all it take is just a little self-awareness? Isn't it harder to change your body's coordination unconsciously, subconsciously, and consciously? Isn't it hard to change that behavior? So how could it be just so simple as just self-awareness? Well, because your brain and your mentality is so smart anyway that trying to tell it to do any specific thing is very difficult. However, you can correct any misconceptions that your brain might have had and it was operating on. As your brain operates at such a crazy fast speed all the time. All these ideas and languages and words coming out of ideas in your head move so fast that to try to tell it to check in with a new fact every time it wants to think about something is impossible. However, what you can do is correct a fact that it already runs on, a premise that it already believes to be true. And while you've been living in that amazing window to this godlike experience this entire time throughout your life, you've also been developing years and years of instructions through outside looking in, through looking at other things of the world, by not examining the sense of balance, because how could we when none of us were thinking about these rainbow arches is so difficult, or pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave the less swallowing muscles alone. Yeah, it was a little bit difficult to talk about these kinds of things, but the self-awareness becomes one of the most strong things, the strongest things, since all you must do then is correct its misconception. And where do those misconceptions come from? Well, life of experience. We weren't looking at our bodies these ways, so what we were doing was looking at our bodies from the outside looking in, most of the time looking at other people, not looking towards our sense of balance to orient ourselves, but looking at the appearance of other people to try to copy and mimic those, because we're too afraid to say, hey, we don't know what to do. So your self-awareness is so strong. And once you tell it, hey, I know what you were thinking, because you spent years and years developing those thoughts. I know you were thinking about the fact that you might sit on your legs, or you might have considered it, because I mean, hey, it's right there where you're sitting. But should we give ourselves permission to never believe that again, and to completely believe the 100% opposite to be true? We might be able to align with it a little bit more and more daily and see how it feels for us, you know? And if that truth ends up feeling better and better, we might do it more and more often throughout the day. But how does that come about? Simply by shifting your self-awareness, because your body simply is so strong and so smart and intellectual and smart that it will already run off the premises it believes to be true. So should we want to feel freedom, all we must do is correct any misconceptions that might have been making it harder to feel the truths. Like the idea that we might have to put our weight into this tailbone. Ooh, that singular tailbone as opposed to placing weight down the front of the spine. And how does that feel for you? And how does that feel for you, simply shifting your self-awareness like that? Does your body feel good? We'll be right back. Please place the weight of the body on the front of the spine. And it's the rainbow arches, not the tailbone, at all times. And we'll be right back. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Waking the worlds up physically, mentally, spiritually, then physically again. Why? To feel better. Objectively. Wait a minute. How's that even possible? Well, with the help of your only no-nonsense podcast brought to you through the Best Feeling Network and the little help of your own body from the inside out, baby. Yes. Feeling so good from the inside out. Welcome back to Pal Go On. Have you been able to pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out and to leave thy swallowing muscles alone? As we are stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every day, you one part of this gigantic 6 billion population, more than 6 billion population. You are this one individual in this gigantic population. You are just one in this gigantic sea of people. However, isn't this giant sea of people also just one population affecting itself, informing itself, learning from the world, learning about the world from itself? Aren't you this one thing in this gigantic planet, this gigantic billions of population of people, but isn't this billions in population of people just one population constantly affecting and learning from each other, constantly affecting each other, constantly just being each other or being themselves in order to not be somebody else? Aren't we all constantly just shaping each other? So aren't we all one simultaneously? Where are you right now? Are you cooking breakfast? Are you reading a book? Oh man, I miss reading books. Are you drinking some water right now? Are you playing guitar? Just strumming along? sometimes want to strum your guitar, but you feel like you cannot? You feel like something holds you back? Do you feel like something holds you back in that sense? Are you concerned about it? Do you concern yourself with not feeling free? How are you? Wherever you are, with your friends or with your parents, where are you at? How are you now? Are you with your children, maybe? Have you been feeling the love? Have you been feeling the love that you feel like you want, you deserve? Or do you feel like it's out of reach for you? Who are you for real? Today on Freedom Fridays, we talk about attachments. To contrast with yesterday on Truth Hurts Days, where we talked about hyper-responsibility. Now, why might people not want to take hyper-responsibility, as we were talking about yesterday? Why is it that people might see taking hyper-responsibility, that is hyper-ownership, that is the idea that things around you, things that you care about, even if it's not directly your responsibility or your fault, hyper-responsibility is the disposition of finding out in ways that it is your fault, or finding out ways that it is in your hands to help the situation that you do care about. As if the situation is personal to you. Because isn't your happiness personal to you? Isn't what you care about personal to you? If you're on vacation and someone's ruining your vacation, without taking hyper-responsibility, one might sit back and let something else ruin the vacation. Just because it's somebody else who's doing it. So it's not your fault, right? However, it is your vacation. It is your life, the life that you are living right now. You only have so much time on this earth. So having a hyper-responsible disposition towards this vacation of yours might be looking for ways in which you could be helping the scenario by maybe looking at yourself in ways that you could have been doing better. Oh, I could have been finished earlier so I could have helped out so we weren't late. Or I could have not been on my phone so I could have been paying attention so I could have helped out at this specific moment so that we wouldn't be stuck here. I did notice that we should have turned back there, but because I had my earphones on, I was too nervous to tell everyone because I wasn't completely sure. What happens when we do that? Well, don't you take a more active role in your life, your happiness? Don't you fear less despite going through more hardships? Don't you fear less because the idea of where to look when things go wrong is erased from your mind? As the answer is always within. The answer is always yourself. The answer is always right here, right there, right then, right now. Why? It might be someone else's fault that your car got hit. It might be someone else's fault that the line is taking so long. True. But what good does the energy come from blaming on someone else when instead you could be looking for ways that you, yourself, for now and every time in the future, as your life goes on, get better at handling what you could have done in that situation so that you can achieve what you want to be happiness more often. Whether that be getting into the line earlier, or whether that be sticking up for yourself so someone doesn't cut you in line, or whether that be going to the shop at a different time, at a different day. But whatever that might be, one must be more self-aware to find out where those areas to improve thy life are. So why might we not want to take hyper-responsibility, as we talked about yesterday on the Truth Hurts Days? Well, because people are afraid of the failure of it. Of the failure of the stuff that comes with the responsibility of the dropping the ball. Right? But who cares about dropping the ball? You see, people who are afraid to take hyper-responsibility for their lives, in actuality, are more concerned about appearing perfect than actually progressing their lives. They're concerned about the appearance of not failing, the appearance of not taking taking responsibility and then failing. Because what are the benefits of taking hyper-responsibility? Well, no fear, complete activity in your life, complete engagement in your life, complete control over one's life, which might not sound like freedom until we start thinking about ourselves like a wheel, in which the control to stay upright and balanced allows us more freedom in the end. Sounds paradoxical, but not really. throughout life, we see that control allows more freedom. Whether that be control in a relationship so that one can stay in that relationship, to be free, to feel that freedom to act as themselves with another person. Isn't that so freeing to be yourself with another person? In a romantic relationship doesn't allow you to be yourself in a properly ordered one. In a properly aligned romantic relationship doesn't allow you freedom. So don't we need self-control to allow ourselves that freedom? In the same way that we need self-control in the car to make sure we have the freedom to move straight and we're not zigzagging and hitting all these cars, which would not give you freedom because you'd go straight to jail. We keep ourselves controlled so we don't go to jail. We keep ourselves controlled all the time for more freedom. That is the nature of life. A little bit of a yin and yang, if you will. So why might we not want to care about appearing perfect? Why do people care about appearing perfect instead of just being hyper-responsible when the hyper-responsibility itself grants you so many great things wherever you are? Whether you're at the park right now throwing your stick with the dog, or you are pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Or whether you are watching a sunset or the sky pass by, whether you are feeling so full inside or empty and that you might cry. Why is it the case why is it the case that despite hyper-responsibility giving us so much more control in life, which we want so that we can feel free from things that hold us down? Why would we be afraid of that hyper-responsibility? Well, we're afraid of not appearing perfect. Right? We're afraid of failing at this responsibility. What it might mean for failing at that responsibility, all the things that come in play with that. What about all the things that we would drop the ball at? What about all the things that we would fail at? What about all the things that would break if we decided to take hyper responsibility? And what do you know about all those things breaking? Aren't there so many factors to everything breaking? How is it just you? Do you have the ego so much that you think that everything you do affects everything that directly? Or in contrast, is there an entire world full of people who are doing the exact same thing, trying to do the exact same thing, worrying about the exact same things? But if you can handle it, what's the issue? The issue's more about, oh no, what happens, what about the appearance of how life will look, about how I will look? Should I take hyper responsibility and mess things up? I won't be able to handle it. I won't be able to handle it if I take hyper responsibility. Things are gonna mess up, or I won't look perfect anymore. I won't be able to solve it anymore. Well, why is that life or death to you? Whether or not you solve it. Whatever it might be that you feel like you're taking hyper responsibility for. If you care about it, isn't taking responsibility towards it, isn't that moving you towards happiness and peace and contentness and overall excitement towards whatever it is that you're thinking about? Should we take hyper responsibility and start taking this kind of human ownership over it? Regardless of your actual status towards it, taking ownership of your feelings towards it, taking ownership of your relationship with this thing, taking ownership of your relationship with whatever it is that you feel compassionate about, that you feel very strongly about, your relationship with it. Although you might not be responsible for that thing specifically, should we take responsibility for the relationship we feel for it? Wouldn't we not get more? Would we not suck more from the nectar of life? Instead of trying to appear as though we can, instead of worrying about whether or not we appear we can handle it, as we see that those are attachments. Appearing perfect, appearing like appearing like we can handle it, being someone who looks like they can fix these problems, viewing life in a way that there should be no problems. These things are attachments, as in things we attach our value to because we don't know how to value ourselves yet. So we attach our value to the appearance of things. But in actuality, what's closer, isn't it what's closer to who we are? Closer to who we are is how we handle each individual problem in motion, in time. Instead of trying to project what we want people to think about us using these attachments about us of like, oh, his life's perfect this way. Oh, he can handle responsibility without sweating like that. Oh, she can look perfect that way. Oh, this person's an awesome mother. This person is flawless in their own way. This person is knowledgeable about movies or art. Aren't those all attachments? Aren't those all things that we project to the world, hoping that they'll like us for those things? But isn't what we are closer, isn't a closer idea of who we are and what we are manifested in our actions in each problem, in each new scenario, in the spur of the moment? Isn't that closer to who we are than this projection of what we're trying to project to the outside world using these still traits about ourselves? Like, oh, they appear perfect. Oh, nothing wrong ever happens when they're taking responsibility. Oh, they're an awesome dad. Or, oh, they don't sweat when they encounter problems. All of those appearances not having to do with how one actually deals with the struggling when it comes to life, which is what we learn from. And we'll be right back after this break as we talk more about attachments and how they keep you down and make you feel not free on Freedom Fridays, but they make you fear death, or they are a result of fearing death. But we want to be life-loving. We'll be right back. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning wood. Feel without. Have you been able to pretend that there is a candle in front of the lips, like 1 to 2 inches that you're trying to not put out, just flickering there, and of course you're not trying to breathe in or out, you're just pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave that swallowing muscles alone as you observe your sense of self. Remembering to feel the weight of the body, of course, your body, your life from the inside out. Feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. And you might say, Herbie, it's hard to just suddenly throw all my weight into the front of the spine. True. So maybe trying to do the yin and yang would help also. Reminding yourself that you do not place your weight on the back of your spine. You do not place weight into your tailbone. You see, you can attack these truths from multiple directions, right? They are still true, right? Something can be below something else, while something else is above that something, right? They're both true. Herbie, how do I feel the weight of the body into the rainbow arches? Well, remember that you do not sit on your legs, as your body will then allow more of your weight to be delivered into the proper channels as your legs kind of like lift up towards your heads. As we are asking ourselves, what the heck is an attachment? You're talking about some plain stuff like Avatar? Release all of your attachments so that you stay onto this earth realm. A little bit something like that, but a little bit of a twist. Don't we attach ourselves to things in our lives that we think other people will like us for because we believe that we need to be liked? And you would not be wrong to think that you want to be liked. Who doesn't want to be liked? There's actual caveman reasons as to why being liked is a good thing. As we are social creatures, are we not? So being liked is favorable if you want to be not attacked in the dead of the night, so you have a tribe to sleep with, so you don't get attacked by tigers and lions in the middle of the night, so you don't get abandoned when people are looking for new food, so that you have mates to mate with. Aren't there plenty of survival, biological, physiological reasons to be social and to be liked? So is our brain wrong for thinking that it could be life or death in a way to be liked? Is our brains wrong to attach our value to things that we believe other people will like us for, whether that be liking us for being good at solving problems quickly, whether that be us being good at solving problems without ever a moments of hardship, whether that be us thinking that people like us for appearing perfect or being knowledgeable with music or art or even schoolings or math or anything like that. We might think that people like us for being an awesome dad, for being a good mother, for being flawless, or how smart we appear to other people, all having to do with what people think about us and what we think about their opinion of us, and not about what our bodies live like from the inside out. As in, what do our bodies do to get good at things? Don't they encounter hardship constantly, frequently, over and over? Don't we encounter hardship constantly and frequently and over to get to this place where we feel like we can appear knowledgeable, where we can appear like we can, we can feel like other people see us in a way that we seem like we solve problems very easily or quickly? Isn't there a lot of work from the inside out that goes into that? Isn't that closer to who you are, this inside out experiencing different hardships that you put yourself through because you're concerned with certain things and how you deal with those hardships, right? As they come by, isn't that closer to who we are rather than these attachments of us which we attach our value to, thinking that people will like us for that, thinking that we even need people to like us to survive? But isn't it closer to who we are, the way we handle each individual problem that comes to our head, like even the problem of, oh no, I don't look perfect? From the inside out, from when we live, the life-loving direction of life from the inside out, from our experience outwards, looking at the way we feel about life, looking at our experience first, isn't the more properly aligned way to look at it? is that who you are is closer to the idea of how you are dealing with every new piece of suffering or something that you need to overcome. Isn't that closer to who you are? As you are living moment to moment. You are not living this gigantic pantheon library of time that you have spent getting good at this thing. You do not think of that entire moment, but rather this entire moment, or rather your all moment is this entire moment right now, is it not? All you have is this moment. And then this moment. And then this moment. You die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. So which one is more like you? You out there in the world? Whether you are out there in Japan, whether you're out there in Korea, whether you are out there in Philippines, whether you're out there in Taiwan, whether you're out there in Uganda, whether you are out there in Egypt. Isn't that closer to who we are? The way we handle each new scenario. Aren't we living exactly in this moment? Though we have culminated our way to this moment as we're doing that constantly, isn't who we are closer to the idea of how we're living this moment? Isn't that more life-loving? Rather than the way that we think that people view us. Whether we want us to view us as knowledgeable with history or music or anything like that, or whether we think that they acknowledge us for being an awesome dad, or like us from the outside looking in for being a good mother, or things that we want people to perceive us as. Is that closer to who we are? If I want to appear perfect to other people, is the way that other people feel about us as we try to guide and try to manipulate it subconsciously and try to get people to think about us a certain way, is that closer to who we are? By looking at the way people view us, or is who we are closer to how we deal with things as they come along second to second, and not how people view us over the course of a long period of time? Who are you for real? We talk a lot about attachments today. We talk a lot about life loving on Pangolin. We talk a lot about death fearing. People are always asking, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by life loving, death fearing? As if they're not obvious things already, but they are not obviously tossed around very often. So what do you mean by life loving and death fearing? Well, doesn't your life, you don't know about death from the inside out. You know about death from the outside looking in. Your body only knows about death by seeing death. It doesn't actually know about death from the inside out. It's never died before. What it does know is life. What your body does know from the inside out, what it knows for certain is life. What it can see out there is death. But as some cultures relate the vision, or actually even refer to the human vision as an illusion, Maya, we know that our vision, what we see, is not always what we get. And we don't actually know about death. We can see death, so we can fear death, but our bodies don't actually know death. They've never died. What it knows, what is not an illusion, what is not part of Maya, but is rather even before the eyes, it's closer to you than the eyes, it's before the eyes, is the life. Perhaps after the illusion of the eyes is death, but we don't know that to be true. What our bodies know day to day, second to second, breath to breath is life. From the inside out. What you know is life. So what energy could be spent on is stuff that you know rather than the stuff that you don't know to be true. From the inside out. How could you possibly look at yourself? Well, how's your experience different than the experience that you see outside when you're referring to yourself? If we're using our vision, our Maya, our illusion, our domain of being able to be death-fearing, to look at ourselves, but what we'll see is we will look at ourselves through the lens of other people. Now, what does it mean to look at yourself through the lens of other people versus looking at yourself through the lens of yourself? One more time. What does it mean to look at yourself through the lens of other people? And say it with me. What's the difference between that and looking at yourself through the lens of yourself? What's the difference between looking at yourself through the lens of other people, and what's the difference between that and loving and looking at yourself through the lens of yourself? I'll be right back. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than our morning would feel without. Who are you for real? Today on Freedom Fridays, where we talk about attachments. And how don't we attach our meaning to things that we think people will like about us sometimes? Isn't that right, guys? All of you eating around the table right now, or all of you sitting down at the table, or all of you walking around at the park, or just walking around your room right now. Isn't that right? Sometimes don't we attach our values to things that we think that people will like about us? Sometimes we attach the value of our life to that. Why? Because we care about people liking us. Because ever since you were a child, that's what you cared about. Because as a child baby thing, when everybody's a child baby thing, that is biologically the most sound strategy. The safest bet is for people to like you. Because as a baby, you can't do anything. So everything is life or death, because everything you do is going to affect the people that care about you. And as a little child baby thing, you need someone to take care of you. So doing things or having things about you that cause people to like you is literally life or death for you as a child. And so everything becomes like traumatic for you as a child, and that stays with you. As you get older. Yes, you get older, your body gets older, but there's a part of you that's very deep, deep, deep integrated into you that's still a child. Always, always, always. As we are being constructed from the inside out. Throughout life. So isn't our experience then more in the hands? Isn't our life in the hands of the people and the people's approval of us? In that disposition, in that worldview that we all come from as a child. We're being approved of, or we're being liked, or being agreeable with the people taking care of you was important to your survival, and that stays with you. So is there any wonder why we attach our survival value to things that we think people will like about us? But isn't that just going to be the most scary thing ever, as you're constantly leaving your life in the hands of other people and their approval of you, while people are always disapproving of people all the time? All that's left is to fear death when we look at when we look at ourselves through the lens of other people. When we value ourselves strictly through the lens of other people. Now, what's the difference between what we look like in the lens of other people versus what we look like from the lens of ourselves? As in, how is our experience of ourselves different from ourselves from the inside out? How is the experience of you different from... How is the difference of you, as in you as a person, how is that experience different from the inside out versus from other people looking in? That experience that you are when talking to you, when holding you, when getting to know you, when looking at you, when hanging out with you, when listening to you, what is that experience like for people, for everything around you? And how is that different from its experience with you from the inside out? Well, who we are, isn't it more closer to what we're doing right now here in the moment? Who you are right now. When you look at yourself, when you examine your sense of self, isn't who you are more closer to the idea of how you're handling each situation as they come by right here, right now, as you're listening to this and allowing the words go in one ear and out the other, as you are dealing with the problems that might arise in your head individually as they come across your head. Isn't that closer to your experience and how you are living it? Isn't that closer to who you are and how your experience is lived than any kind of image that you could be projecting to other people, that other people could be seeing in you, like appearing perfect, like being an awesome dad, or being good at that instrument, or being good at dancing, or being popular? All these things that, all of these reputational type of attachments that people might be able to gauge us on, and we might gauge our value on that, as at some point in time it was important for us to be liked by people, for us to be admired for those things. But as we are viewing ourselves and trying to look for our value by looking at the way people value us, aren't we always allowing other people to be in control of our happiness? I say again, by attaching our value to the way that we think people perceive us, because we might have needed to at some point in time for survival, don't we leave our entire livelihood, don't we leave our ability to be happy on our own in the hands of someone else? If we are only able to attach the feelings of our value to the way that we perceive other people valuing us, then aren't we always leaving our own happiness, our own fate in the hands of other people? And is that any way to be life-loving? Or is that a surefire way to be death-fearing and always to be living life in fear as we are leaving the responsibility of our happiness in the hands of someone else that we have no control over, technically. This death fearing stuff. Would we not only be death fearing as we are always looking at the ways that we must fit into the pockets of being agreeable with these people? Should we place all of our values? Should we place our survival into the attachment of the way we think that people view us? And it's normal. I mean, it was natural at some point to worry about the way people view us, because when you're a little baby childlike thing, that is literally your survival. As what else do you provide to people? You're a baby. You're a flesh thing. You're like a little like potato. You're a potato sack. You're cute. You make sounds. But you're not contributing to the family. You're not paying rent. You're not folding laundry. You're not doing chores. You're not going out to a 9-to-5 yet. You're still in diapers. So what can you offer? Well, being liked, being agreeable, wanting to be around. And so that sticks with you throughout life, that kind of mentality, until we find reasons good enough to take us out of it. But that sticks with you. So throughout life, we get that idea of our survival being something of what people like about us. We must be good at those things that we believe people to like about us, because it was literally life or death and survival at some point. And if there's never a reason to believe otherwise, we will always believe that it's always survival. But as we are trying to be more authentic and ourselves so that we can love life and feel so free in our own bodies and feel so good from the inside out, isn't it more important to take hyper responsibility to be good at what you're doing, as opposed to worrying about how people view you, but rather being a tool towards getting closer towards what you love in life, towards what you cannot help but feel responsible towards in life, because you did not choose that. There are things that just get thrown into your awareness, and you end up caring about them. And we end up running from them, because we attach our value to things like the way people view us. But when we just look at our value as inside out, what we're doing here and now, from the inside out, how we are dealing with each circumstance that we must overcome, are we not looking more at this consistent idea of something we can actually work on, and not some idea we're trying to project on other people? And doesn't that get us closer to this happiness and balance and feelings of sexy excitement towards whatever we feel exuberant about in life? Don't we get closer and closer to being able to do that as we feel more and more free and without fear, as we are taking responsibility and being active towards our happiness? Not by caring what people think about us, but by working on that only thing that is always within you, which is yourself. Cultivate that self. Because aren't we always going through all these problems every day? Aren't we always working on stuff every day? Well, if we're worrying about how people are caring about us, if we're placing our survival in the way that people view us, well, we're never going to be happy. We're always placing our value in something that is out of our hands. But if we're always looking at ourselves from the inside out, as in viewing ourselves as that window to this godlike experience that you are, always failing forward, always overcoming each new circumstance by examining yourself in ways that you could take responsibility for and change in your way. Why? So you can play your own game better and get closer to the things that you love more in life. Love life, baby. It is 6:39 a.m. on another Freedom Fridays. It is August 27th, Friday, August 27th, 2021. Thank you for another week. Oh my gosh, we're so thankful for another week. Thank you for another Friday, another Freedom Fridays. We will see you next week. My name is Herbie. Please feel that candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and leave your swallowing muscles alone. As you do so, observe your sense of self. We'll see you on Monday. We love you guys. One more time, let's run that back. It's such a good one. We love you guys. Have a fantastic one. Be good to yourself out there. Drink lots of water. Stretch yourself everyone. It's like a muscle. We'll see you on Monday. Love you guys. Outside this weekend, drink some water. Look at yourself. Look at the room. Look at the bed sheets. Look at the sky. Look at the sun. Look at the mirror. Look at your skin. Look at the world.